We are live, but we're warming up a little bit.
Billions and billions. You're made of stardust, Cecil, just like me.
Yep. I think this is the Perseus cluster behind us.
Oh, not the
Yes.
Pleiades. There's a UFO cult, I think, that thought that our real origins were the Pleiades.
Interesting.
I was born in Mount Lebanon.
When I called you yesterday, I was watching a documentary on ancient Persia. So
Oh yeah, Zoroastrians.
Beautiful, wonderful. Yes, it was about Azura Mazda, actually.
Azura Mazda. And when I was in India, I saw where they have one of the last, I think they're called the Parsis. They have one of the last places, because one of the preferred ways to pass on to the next world is have vultures eat you. And they put you up on the top of the hill for the vultures to come. I think the Parsis are really rich in India too, anyway.
It was like in Conan the Barbarian. All right, we got our chat room fired up. So let's get this thing going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome in, everyone. It is the Audible News and Notes show, and Miles Sanders, Fantasy GMs Bloom, just this morning. This is our news and notes for training camp. This is August 19th. If you're listening to this, on your podcast, and Miles Sanders is listed as week to week with a lower body injury. This is from today. It's from this morning, and it's got Fantasy GMs all up in a Twitter.
Yeah. So let's sift through the layers here. First, all of the reports out of Philly are the team's not concerned. This isn't a big deal. No indication that he's going to miss week 1. And he's one of the running backs you have. Let's assume that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has separated himself now as the next running back off the board after Dalvin Cook, or maybe you take him before Dalvin Cook. I don't know. In that 6, 7, 8 range of your first round. Then you have Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs, and you have Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake maybe. And this is something, if you drew 10, 11, 12, you're thinking about. Who's my guy there? Or maybe you take Devontae Adams if he falls, or maybe Julio Jones. Anyway, usually the person taking Miles Sanders is going to have stars in their eyes about him being a top 5 finish this year. I don't think it's going to slow them down. I don't think his ADP is going to drop, and I don't think it should drop. I think this is purely precautionary unless they sign somebody. They sign a Devontae Freeman. They bring in a veteran running back. And, if it's not Devontae Freeman, but it's like Buck Allen, then maybe it's just someone to take camp reps. Right. Because Boston Scott's also a little banged up. And again, precautions. So that's really what I'm watching, Cease. If they don't sign anybody, then I'm going to assume Miles Sanders is out as a precaution. And of course, as Dr. Gene would advise us, we're going to watch Wednesday, Thursday, Friday leading up to week 1 very closely. Because if he doesn't have full practice participation leading up to week 1, then we'll look back and say maybe we should have been a little more concerned about this. If they do bring in Devontae Freeman, if they do bring in somebody that looks like they want to be a more prominent part of the backfield, at least for week 1, then we're worried that it's a more significant injury that they're concerned about his availability for week 1. Then you get into, again, things that Dr. Gene has taught us about. You have to ramp up your conditioning again. You have risk of re-injury. You have risk of injury during that conditioning ramp up once you sit for a couple of weeks. So really the words are, don't be worried, but we're still waiting for action or lack of action from the Eagles before we set this in stone as far as how it affects Sanders' value.
Speaking of action, it's all about that action, boss. And William on Facebook says, bring in Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
So there you go. Try to make it happen somehow, some way. But Bloom, my concern is week to week.
Sure.
This isn't day to day. If they come out and they say, oh, it's day to day, and you're thinking, oh, he'll miss, a few days. No, week to week is the concerning thing.
Yep.
For me.
Well, and you're right. And how do we interpret that? I mean, because they have other guys listed like Boston Scott as day to day. So he's not just, it's not just a little bump. Okay. He didn't just
Dallas Goedert is day to day with an upper body injury. Boston Scott day to day with a leg injury. And Sanders is then week to week. That is different.
It is. And you're right that that's meaningful also, no matter what we're hearing, because we're hearing it's not serious, team's not concerned. So it's not just a minor bump, bruise, or nick. And I think that this could be a situation where we would want our time machine and see, if he's getting in a full practice on the Friday before week 1 against Washington, then I'm not worried. If he isn't, then the week to weeks appears to be prophetic to say this is an injury that stretches over 3, 4, 5 weeks. And it's hard to know that. I will say a name we have to mention here is Corey Clement, because he's back. They're happy with him. And because of these injuries, he's getting first team reps. And then, of course, we've got Michael Warren, Adrian Killens, some interesting guys from that, like Mike Tolbert, Darren Sproles, old Chargers backfield bookends, total different ends of the spectrum at the running back position. So these guys are going to get a chance to shine. I still think if you loved Miles Sanders because you thought, look at what he did last year. Once Howard got hurt, I think he was a top 2, top 3 running back. And you're thinking, he's going to do that again, maybe even be better. Everything that the Eagles were saying, Doug Peterson and company, matched up with him getting the opportunity to do that this year. And if that's what you were picturing when you were targeting him at 9, 10, 11, I wouldn't change that unless we hear they signed Devontae Freeman. But you're right, Cecil. We could look back and say we should have been more concerned.
Should have been more concerned. And you keep talking about Devontae Freeman. I'm thinking about a different one because you got Howie Roseman, man.
Yeah.
He's addicted to trading. I was asked by, let's just say, someone in the upper levels of our industry, of the NFL industry, would the Broncos trade Royce Freeman?
Right.
And I thought, well, he's barely getting used at training camp. We're talking, third team reps, basically. Levante Bellamy's looking outstanding. Looks basically like a Philip Lindsay clone, as I thought he did at Western Michigan. He's doing that at camp, and no live tackling, but still. So I was thinking, like, maybe they could. So again, if they make that move, depending on the level of the move,
right,
then let's watch out for this. Let's watch out for a Jarrett Stidham errant pass. It's like he hit people on the sidelines. Who was that in Jets practice that was doing that? Was that Trevor Simeon? Who was that? That was the
Simeon,
quarterback. Was it Simeon or somebody was hitting reporters?
Right.
No. It was Baylor quarterback. Washed out of the league. Said he played Madden. Why am I forgetting his name? Bryce Petty.
Bryce Petty.
He was hitting. So now we got a Bryce Petty impression from Jarrett Stidham throwing all those picks, bunch of picks, struggling in practice, 3 picks yesterday on Tuesday, August 18th. But Bloom, you said Mike Reese, and if there's someone to listen to, it is Mike Reese, a quarterback. What? A committee? Yeah. What's going on here? What is this?
Yeah, see, this is something to dig into. And by the way, I like that you brought up Freeman. I think other names on people's mind should be Jordan Wilkins, who's good. It's just that he's the 4th running back for the Colts, and will they keep 4?
And Jonathan Taylor's tearing it up, at least from the videos we get.
Well, and they're happy with him. And Jalen Samuels or Kareth White, whoever the Steelers don't keep at running back, is going to be a name to watch.
It makes me sad when you say Jalen Samuels.
I know. I want them to see what he can do. Matt Canada called him an amoeba when they were together back at NC State. So at least he knows how to use them. But we're getting off track here. This is really fascinating to me because we have different things to sift through here. Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels overseeing the first real quarterback competition for the Patriots. There wasn't even really a competition between Bledsoe and Brady. Once Brady was Brady, he was the guy. There wasn't really a competition between them. So really the first quarterback competition in their 2 decades there, right? So what do they do? What do they do to open training camp? All 3 quarterbacks getting equal reps. Huh? Brian Hoyer? Huh? And I get it. It's the Patriots way, right? Competition. The Seahawks did something great when they had competition between Russell Wilson and Matt Flynn and Tavares Jackson that one year, and the rest is history. But that was a season with a regular offseason. So Cam Newton comes in, and I think and I know, and we all know, Cam Newton gives them the best chance to win overall. However, this is also a Josh McDaniels offense. And Josh McDaniels is probably one of the most confident offensive coordinators that his way of seeing the game, his play designs, his way of coaching quarterbacks to go through progressions, to understand based on the pre-snap looks and coverage, who to target. Josh McDaniels probably thinks that's very valuable. He wants the quarterback to be an extension of him. Cam Newton, by all accounts, is the 3rd, Mike Reese said this too, is the 3rd most comfortable in the system, which is to be expected, right? I mean, he just joined the team. However, what that creates is a situation where perhaps in sections of the game, and Mike Reese brought this up again, folks, here's what to say in the background here. Mike Reese is not slappy. Mike Reese is not trying to drum up clicks. If Mike Reese is saying, we're all thinking about whether there's going to be some sort of quarterback platoon in week 1, then we better consider that. And Phil Perry.
That's a message.
Yeah. And Phil Perry, another Patriots writer, asked Belichick, would it be best for the team to have a quarterback platoon? And he said it might be. We'll consider everything to help the team. So Belichick didn't dismiss it. And that could be some gamesmanship too. But that's the thing, Cecil. I mean, we could do like a whole half hour on this. Is it games? I mean, Randy Moss. We'll always remember that from the first season,
Right.
The 5-minute drill. When Belichick had that slight little smirk, like, he's going to be okay. We didn't really do anything in the preseason. And the next thing we know, they're unleashing the 2007 Patriots offense.
Which Mike Reese said they would.
Yes.
And some guy named Wes Welker.
Right, who they got from, they know this again. Belichick loves the players that beat him, and that was Cam Newton. So is it really gamesmanship to put these snaps, like to give Brian Hoyer a third of the snaps? I don't think it's gamesmanship because those are valuable snaps. Cam Newton needs synchronicity with his teammates. He needs mentally to create those pathways in his brain to understand how these plays play out in real time and how to make these decisions. And Reese is not the only one to note that Cam Newton is just moving slower, operating slower than they're used to seeing from Patriots quarterbacks. So that tells me that for the McDaniel system to jump off of the page, off of the whiteboard, the quarterback needs to be in sync with him. Now, look, in your base offense, having Cam Newton run the zone read, having Cam Newton and everything he offers outside of structure is still probably better than whatever you're going to get as an advantage in structure. But in a no-huddle offense, and again, Mike Reese brought this up, in situations where it's faster paced and basically, it's like the Goff McVay thing. Like McDaniels is almost in your ear saying, this is where you're going to want to go with the ball. Cam Newton might not be the best quarterback. So maybe we're looking at this competition all wrong, where it's not a 100-0 kind of thing. Cam Newton can show he's going to be the best quarterback in the base offense, which they will morph around him. So that's another good thing about Josh McDaniels, right? If Cam Newton's the quarterback, they're going to make an offense around what Cam Newton can do, and they can do it pretty quickly. So it's still a bit baffling. I want to see at some point an indication in the allotment of snaps that someone's emerging as the leader, and then maybe I'll back off of this. But see, it's only 2 weeks. I mean, we only have 2 weeks. Right. So if like next week it's still a third, or if next week it's still half Newton and half Stidham or Hoyer, we have to consider this as a possibility at least to open the season, which there's a monkey wrench into all kinds of fantasy projections.
Think about where we are on a normal calendar. We're in the 3rd week of the preseason.
Right.
Essentially. This is money time. This is go time. So essentially you'd be shutting down after this week and then, getting ready for the regular season. So if you take that into account, you realize how you're just running out of time. And by, playing these games, they're not really games because your time's too precious and Belichick's too good to play those sorts of
right. It's a legitimate competition.
It is. And it's one to keep an eye on, and we'll keep you abreast of the situation. We are going to do some of these training camp updates, these, quick hitter 20-minute shows, news and notes right here on our YouTube channel. Make sure to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, share, help us grow the channel. And thank you guys for watching, for clicking that thumbs up, smashing the like button. And also thanks to Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. Say hello to your new favorite place to play fantasy football for real money. It's Underdog Fantasy. With Underdog, all you need to do is the fun part. Draft. Forget about the injuries, trades, waivers, even setting lineups. Just set it, forget it, and wait for the winnings to come in this year. They have a $1 million tournament. That's right. Just draft the best team, and you have a shot at $1 million in prizes. Sign up for Underdog today and enter the Best Ball Mania for a chance at $1 million in prizes by going to UnderdogFantasy.com or searching for Underdog Fantasy in your app store. Be sure to enter the code FBG after you make your first deposit. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Also check out the app store for Underdog Fantasy. Darrell Williams, the handcuff to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because the rookie takes the day off, and Darrell Williams is the guy that gets the first team reps. This was a news item that fantasy GMs were, paying attention to.
Yeah, well, any Chiefs running back. I mean, we still have Darwin Thompson there, the Matt Waldman favorite. So what's interesting here is that Darrell Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire know each other from LSU. And Daryl Williams, I think, has taken the role of Damian Williams in teaching Clyde Edwards-Helaire everything he needs to know. And first and foremost, by the way, all of the reports about Edwards-Helaire out of Chiefs camp, thumbs up, big thumbs up. So if you drew 7, 8, 9, and you're thinking, am I really going to take a rookie? Hasn't played a snap in the NFL. I wouldn't talk you out of it based on what we're hearing. But we saw Daryl Williams, and see, last year, whenever Damian Williams went down, we were looking at Daryl Williams as the guy that can do everything in the offense. He can be the receiving back. He can be a short yardage back. Maybe he's not the best at any of those things, but he can do all those things. Deandre Washington is similar, and Deandre Washington, of course, has that background with Patrick Mahomes. So I think that much like last year, if Edwards-Helaire were to go down, we would probably see a mix. Maybe we wouldn't see one of those three backs emerge. They would be used maybe in the areas that they shine the most. And while Deandre Washington has been drafted as the handcuff, or he's the 10th, 11th, 12th round, and he was mentioned, DeAndre Washington could get more snaps in, say, the first month of the season as Edwards-Helaire is getting more accustomed to things. I think you're right to bring up Daryl Williams as someone that will play a role in this backfield. Remember, he had that hamstring injury, but he was productive. Right. He was executing. And this is one of those things, too, as the background, again, why take Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round? Aside from the hit what he showed at LSU, it's because this offense creates for the running backs. If the running backs just do their job, big plays are going to be there, because how do you defend this offense? How do you account for everybody else in the passing game? Kelsey, Watkins, Hill, Hardman, and it's going to be there. And then Edwards-Helaire can add value the same way that Daryl Williams added value. Damian Williams added value. Edwards-Helaire can add even more value than them. So it's still very exciting to have your Kansas City Chiefs, even though, is that another team where the fans hate you, Cecil?
Maybe. They won a Super Bowl. They're fine.
We need the Cecil approval ratings among fan bases.
Pretty low in Kansas City. I'd say it's pretty low. It's bottom of the barrel in Jacksonville. But
they love you in Vegas, though, right?
Sure. I'm trying to think of all the people that don't like me. That's a long list, probably led by Joel Klatt. But either way, let's talk about Nick Chubb. It's his first concussion,
right?
And I don't want to downplay it. It's only his first, guys, but it's one of those things like, oh man, we're talking about the best running back in the game. We're talking about a guy who could lead the NFL in rushing. We talk about a guy I even feel bad just saying top 3 fantasy running back. He could be the number 1 guy, and now he's concussed for the first time. Probably wants to get back out there. Got Kareem Hunt right behind him. Like, there's some factors with Nick Chubb that make you go, oh man, that's not the news that I wanted to hear.
No, and it was Mack Wilson tackling him up high, and football gods karma that Mack Wilson has a knee injury now, and maybe even could have surgery. So don't tackle your own guys up high. Who was it? Who's the friendly fire guy? I can't remember. Was it I think it was the Panthers. I can't remember now. See,
for the Broncos, it used to be my co-host in Denver, Nick Ferguson. We had Tatum Bell on the show like a month ago, and he's like, because of Nick Ferguson. Like he was that guy.
Right. So, I just think that this is a situation where, much like the one that you're watching in Denver, Cease, the ADP indicates Chubb late first, early second round, maybe mid second round by now. Hunt 5th, 6th round. Maybe there should be more tightness between those two, and certainly Kareem Hunt's going to get a chance to show what he can do. Look, this is one of those offenses. There aren't many. Again, maybe the Broncos are one where you could take out the highest paid running back. Let's put it that way. And the number 2 running back, the offense wouldn't miss a beat, right? And I certainly think if Kareem Hunt is the starter for Cleveland, if Nick Chubb were to miss time, the offense wouldn't miss a beat, and maybe it would even open up some dimensions, which they will use Hunt to do anyway. So I think this is a reason to like Hunt a little more, like Chubb a little less, not because of the injury per se, but because it's drawing our attention to this being a 2-back backfield more than a starter and a backup.
Well, it could just make him nervous. You know what I mean? Like, Chubb's amazing and Chubb is awesome, and Kareem Hunt is not that bad. So the team now could be like, let's ease him in. Let's make sure we don't get him banged up. Like, instead of saying, hey, Chubb, here's most of everything. You're getting 75%. You're getting 80%, whatever the number is. Now that might be lower because of this concussion. Now, to wrap things up, it is a Broncos show, Bloom. And you mentioned it, Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay. Gordon and Lindsay are splitting first team reps as of this recording. And I'll be back out there on Friday, not out there today, but I'll be back on Friday because of limited media availability. And just watching this Broncos situation, it's one to note because Phillip Lindsay is catching the ball better than he ever has, even in college. He doesn't have the wrist injury to worry about. He did have another surgery earlier this year. It was a more minor surgery than the year previous where he had a wrist surgery. So he's catching the ball well. He did fumble in the red zone yesterday. He was super pissed off about that. And then Melvin Gordon, Bloom, to me looks perhaps better than ever because he's actually being used the right way. Now, we can't talk about formations.
Right.
Although Shermer said they'll be in the backfield at the same time. That's something to anticipate. Lassie bark, but Melvin Gordon is now thriving. And again, no live tackling. I get it. But when you're thriving on a gap concept, because that's what Shermer is, it's gap system. It's not zone blocking anymore. It's not flowing, bend, bang, or bounce. It's none of that in Denver. We're blocking it here, line it up, get the train ready. When he's doing that on the outside, and Gordon's more of that outside back, that's what he was at Wisconsin. 65% of his carries went outside the tackles. And he's still got that speed. Yes, he's swift. Yes, he can run inside. He can be very successful running inside. But you get this guy outside and he can turn on those jets. That's what he's doing. He made a catch yesterday with Alexander Johnson basically in perfect coverage, and he caught it right here for a touchdown. It was an amazing throw, amazing catch by Gordon. Gordon is looking like all that, but Lindsay's being annoying with his performance. And that's going to cause, I told you off the air, I said, drop Gordon's ADP, bump up Lindsay's ADP, get them a little closer together. Because what were they, like 3rd and 10th? Right. Something like that. If we want to make that a little tighter, right? It's like I'm trying to get for TV. So I'm eating one meal a day. Can't say lose weight, just tighter. We need this Broncos ADP for these running backs a little bit closer together.
And I guess it comes back to not disrespecting Lindsay. Really seeing what he's done with his team in the first 2 years and not treating him as someone that, say, like a Marlon Mack. And we don't want to disrespect Marlon Mack either. But, that's what we're looking at, right, is who's going to assert their role in the backfield and who's going to slide and give more up. Lindsay's not going anywhere, which fits his personality and fits, I think, where he draws his greatness from so far in his time in the league. So always reassessing. We have real news. Real injuries. Let's keep those to a minimum. After Monday, Cecil was like, this is how training camp is going to be this year. Thankfully, the injuries are slowing down, certainly slowing down in severity, and it's feeling more like football.
It is. Not to end on Debbie Downer note, but I think early in the season is where we see more.
Yeah.
Because when they start actually playing football.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting that even in the preseason. So it's just something to watch for, actually, fantasy GM, something to prepare for. And know that number 2 back that maybe you took a round earlier or 2 rounds earlier than his ADP, maybe that guy gets a shot after week 1, after week 2. Save this, timestamp this, and play it back because I really think at the beginning of the season we're going to see a rash of injuries. Okay. Yes, Jason, I will mention the Shrine game so you can rip your bong load. Okay, that's how we do it on this show. So here we go. It's our news and notes show, our training camp edition. We're going to be doing a couple of these a week, just kind of keep you up to date on the largest news. But you want to stay up to date with all the news and everything that's important to the fantasy community, then check out footballguys.com. Sign up for our free daily newsletter, news items covered by me and Sigmund and Joe Bryant. And we'll send it right to your inbox every single morning. Top fantasy stories, the fantasy take on that, our Football Guys view. It is footballguys.com. It's our free daily newsletter. And Bloom, I don't know how many times I get this, but it's worth repeating. If you love the show and you want to support the show, because we don't do the super chat thing, and there are other channels that do super chat and they won't read your question unless you send them money, which is weird, whatever. Like, we don't do any of that. The Audible, you've listened to Audible for free since we started it. But if you want to support the show, one, thank you. And we certainly appreciate you in these, uneven times. But go to footballguys.com. sign up for a subscription. That's the way to, pay back, if you will, to the show. So we certainly appreciate everyone for watching, Bloom, and certainly appreciate everyone who would like to or is able to subscribe to footballguys.com.
Absolutely. It's the best way to show support. And we still want to be here to support you too. I mean, I know there are people listening that may not even be playing fantasy football this year, but your presence in our life gives us calm and shelter, and we want to do that for you.
There he is. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another training camp update. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.